Welcome to another edition of the Great Commission Podcast. We have with us today Michael Hight, who is the Spanish language coordinator for the bmaamissions here in Arkansas. And Michael, just recently you were in Bolivia on a trip where you taught in the Amazon Bible Institute. So can you, first of all, to get to that remote region, you had to travel a good ways. Can you describe what it was like to travel on the riverboat and travel on the river?
Yeah, I can tell you, the river was really the easiest part. The 6 flights getting to the river was the challenging part. We left Little Rock, and then we had several flights getting into Bolivia, and then once we got into Bolivia, we had several more flights, seemed like, to get to the river where we were at. And then we were on the river boat for 46 hours before we got to our actual destination in Belincito. But it was very, very tranquil, very peaceful. We didn't have any bad weather or anything like that, so we were able just to have a lot of time to rest, a lot of time to relax, a lot of time to think, and just to reflect on what we were seeing. The scenery was scenery that we had never seen before, or I had never seen before, and Keith too. We had never seen it before in our life. I mean, we grew up in Arkansas, and we'd seen a lot of country, but we'd never seen animals like that. We'd never seen dolphins jumping beside the boat, especially in a river, but there were dolphins jumping beside the boat, and we saw monkeys in the trees, and parrots flying around. It was just really an amazing trip, all the way around, so it's pretty neat.
Well, can you describe for people that may not know what the riverboat, the Arrington, is like?
Well, when you see it in pictures, you kind of have really a misconception, because we're used to American standards of boats, and we're thinking of cruise ships, and we think of cruise liners, and so you see the Arrington, you think, well, that doesn't measure up to cruise ship standards. But then when you see it in comparison to the rest of the Bolivian ships, you think, wow, this is like, the best cruise ship in the world. And you get there, and it's painted up very nice. And Hermano David Flores, he does a good job with the sailors that are on the boat, making sure that they keep it clean. It was very clean. Every day they were sweeping, they were cleaning. Occasionally we'd have ants, but they made sure that they put out spray for the ants, and they got them cleaned up. We had cabins, and we had bunk beds, and then even there were some double beds in our cabins, and so the sleeping arrangements were very comfortable. We didn't have any problem with sleeping, and there was refrigerated for our drinks. We had ice, I had a freezer, and had ice cold water when we needed it, and had bathroom facilities down below. There were 3 levels to the Arrington, and had the BMA logo on it. So when we were going down the river, we were very proud for everybody to know who we were. There wasn't any doubt that we were representing the Lord and the BMA of America. So it was very neat.
Great. Well, apparently it was a long way. You said you traveled 46 hours on the river, and you got to a place called Belincito, which is a little village they've designated as the place to establish the Amazon Bible Institute. And there you taught for a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who were the students that came to meet you there for that week of study?
Some of the students were men that lived there around that little village. And when I had in my mind, when you said little village, I thought there would be several houses, several huts, but no, there was just one house, and the guy had allowed us to set up. There was a Christian believer there, and he had allowed us to come onto his property. He had kind of had a little ranch there, and they named the place Belincito, which in Spanish means Little Bethlehem. And so in a little bit we'll talk about, we were teaching the life of Christ, and we know that Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and Belén is Bethlehem in Spanish, so Jesus was born in that place. And so what they were trying to do was birth Jesus all in that Amazon River basin down there. And so he wanted Jesus to be born on his property, metaphorically speaking, so that he could announce Jesus to his people. And so they went in, they built a church there, And so part of our students were the owner of that property. And then he had some family members. He had a son-in-law that came on who was a new believer. And all these guys were new believers, probably less than a year to a year and a half for the vast majority of them of having accepted Christ. So we're talking about baby believers in Christ. And some of the guys had ridden on the boat with us. There were 2 sailors that came. These guys they had been working with the missionary in Bolivia for several years though, so they came, they were students, and then we picked up a couple guys along the river. They came, so we kind of had a mixture of guys, but the majority of them though were young believers, and all of them were extremely hungry, kind of like a sponge, you know. They just wanted to hear more and learn more and to know more about the Bible.